Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I'm a little out of breath because I was just running around outside, taking Boo Radley out, and it's raining outside, and then I ran inside and gave him treats and got him upstairs in bed, and I was like, come on, Boo, let's make this video before your dad gets home. So, getting ready to welcome his dad home for the night, and then I'm gonna go out on the front porch in the rain and film a vlog. But I kind of felt compelled to make this video today on the heels of the video that I made yesterday. So if you didn't watch my video yesterday, I was talking about how I had been watching the show Apples Never Fall. I think it's on Peacock, and it's based on a Leanne Moriarty book. And in the show, there's a part where Annette Bening, who plays the mother, she's talking to somebody about knowing when to leave a relationship, and she said, there will always be reasons to leave. The better question is, are there reasons to stay? And so I was talking and sharing stories of my past relationship with my ex and my relationship with Alex and things like that. And I was talking about reasons to stay versus reasons to leave and whatever. And I got a comment on my video that, like, I wanted to reach through and say, don't let this bring you down, you know? And so I just want to say that unless people ask me, you know, and they'll say, you can share this or whatever, when people leave comments on my videos, I often turn those into topics to talk about over here. People DM me, they ask me, specifically on this channel a lot, to talk about this topic or talk about that topic, and I don't usually say who it is, unless they, you know, say, oh, well, you can say who it is. But I pulled this from this comment, so I just want to make that clear, but I'm not going to say who left the comment. But somebody on the video said, you know, like, I'm watching this on a day when my partner and I are fighting a lot, and kind of like saying that it was tough for them to watch, knowing that they were like fighting with their partner that day and stuff. And, you know, it's interesting because I talk a lot about how couples counseling has helped Alex and I out a lot, especially with like arguing and fighting and things like that, and that we don't as much as we used to. But I want to be a little bit more specific about it because I don't want there to be this misconception about what I'm saying. I think that arguing and even, you know, I don't love the word fighting, but like, I mean, when we know it in the context of relationships, I'm not talking about abusive fighting and things like that. Obviously, that's on a completely different level where you need to seek, you know, professional help and things like that. I'm talking about bickering, arguing, disagreements, fighting, things like that, which I think is so normal in relationships. And in fact, I remember years ago watching an interview with, I always remember this, with Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher, and they were talking about how great their relationship is, and the interviewer said something to them about, like, so you guys don't argue? And they were like, no, we never argue. We've never had, like, one argument, you know? And I think in the context of a romantic relationship, when you are making life decisions, many times raising children, you know, having a home together and things like that, the idea that you're not going to ever have arguments is just, it's bizarre, right? It's bizarre. I think fighting and arguing and things like that is just a part of relationships. And I don't want ever to be the person, because ever since I started on YouTube, I always said that if I was going to show my relationship and I was going to talk about my relationship, I always wanted it I wanted to normalize what a real relationship was like, partly because for years, I had watched, you know, mostly gay couples on YouTube, and I would watch them and they would be so happy, you know. Some of them had been together for a few months, some of them had been together for a few years, and the majority of them would be like, yeah, we never fight, we never argue. And I can remember, like, each and every fight that Alex and I would get in, I just would be like, this is the end of our relationship. You know, these people don't fight. You know, I was watching vloggers that vlogged every day, every other day, you know, and they would just always be so happy together, and oh my God, we never fight, we never argue. And today I know that that's just bullshit. And the reality is none of those couples are together today. Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore aren't together anymore, you know? And for many reasons, but I don't know, you know, they never argued. So I don't think that that is a way to define a relationship. I think that what I would say that I've learned about it is, how do you argue? How do you fight in a relationship? Is it getting to a point where you can't resolve it? That, for me, is where it gets into a problematic area of needing to seek counseling. And even then, counseling or can fix a million things. Sitting down and talking to one another and say, hey, listen, what I said, I wish hey, listen, I hold to what I said, but I wish I hadn't said it the way that I said. Or maybe I shouldn't have came to you at the time that I did. Timing for us is very important, like, if I have something I need to talk to Alex about that's really serious, like, I don't hit him right when he comes through the door and be like, hit him with the topic and be like, hey, I need to talk to you about this. I'll be like, hey, like, there's something I want to talk to you about. And he'll be like, yeah, can you let me rest for an hour or two and then we can sit down and talk about it? We don't have our arguments in the bedroom anymore. That's one of the things that we learned in marriage counseling, is that territory is very important. We always have it in the living room. He typically sits on the couch and I sit on the chair, or vice versa. We don't have it where our nesting is in our bedroom. That's really, really important for us today. One of the things I've learned through the years, I've shared this in a lot of my videos, is that there becomes a point when you're having the fight and then the fight has you. And it was something that, it's nothing I came up with. I heard it years ago from somebody else and it just so resonated with me. And the example I've used for years is like, you'll say to your partner, what do you want for dinner tonight? And maybe you've had a bad day. Maybe they've had a bad day. Maybe you're stressed out about this. Maybe you've got medical issues going on, or you're worried about a family member. We've got all that stuff we carry in our heads, right? And so that's all in there as we're trying to figure out, do we want Chinese or Mexican for dinner tonight, right? Or pizza. And so you'll say to your partner, what do you want for dinner tonight? And they'll go, oh, like, pizza sounds good. Oh, I don't want pizza. I want Mexican. And then they go, well, I don't want Mexican. And then you go, you pick. I don't care, but nothing but Mexican. And they go, okay, Chinese. Not Chinese. And then you guys are bickering and fighting. And then you go, I don't care. I'll just get what I want. You just get what you want. Then you guys eat separately, right? And then it's like, all of a sudden, all this stuff is going through your head. And like, they're not listening to me and they don't know what I'm going through. And then that turns into the next day and no apologies and no making up. And then after a while, what happens is it's about the fact that you didn't take the trash out, and that equals you not respecting me. And if you respected me, you would take the trash out. And when was the last time you kissed me on the cheek? And you don't ever kiss me on the cheek anymore, and you don't take the trash out, and you don't care whether we have pizza or Mexican for dinner, and you never let me decide. And then it blows up in this huge thing, and all of a sudden, you're no longer having a fight. The fight is having you. And there is not a couple out there that has been together for any period of time that is not nodding their head in agreement that that's happened. My husband and I have probably had that exact same argument 100 times in our life. Not just our marriage, but before and after. The difference today, we don't have that argument so much anymore today. We kind of stop it, we know where that's going to go. I think that's the other thing too, is like playing out that tape in your head and you know that it can go there. So you stop it before, you're like, hey, listen, I am just not in a place today. Like, I've had a lot of stuff going on. Well, what's going on? Do you want to talk about it? I really don't want to talk about it right now. I need some time. Listen, let's just get our own separate things for dinner and then we can eat together. And then, give me some time. I'll give you some time, whatever. I think it's about communicating honestly with that person and where you're at and saying, this hurt my feelings. But you have to be receptive to hearing what your partner is going to say as much as you feel pointed in saying what you need to say to them. You have to be receptive to what they're going to say as well, Back in the day, before we got engaged and things like that, and even, before we got married, we had horrific arguments, screaming and yelling. And, one of the things that I think really led to us realizing, like, wanting to stop it was that, like, the dogs would kind of like leave the room and like they didn't like it, and it didn't happen that often, but when it did happen, it was like, it was bad. It was like, crying and yelling over stupid stuff. I look back on it, I can't even remember what some of the arguments were about. It was stupid stuff. So we don't really like raise our voices today at all at each other. We don't yell. We don't scream. If we disagree with each other, we don't agree to disagree. I don't think agreeing to disagree in a relationship works, especially about important situations. We table it and we say, okay, we're going to bring this up in counseling because we obviously can't resolve this ourselves. But even that very rarely ever happens anymore because we've really learned to listen to the other person. I talked in my video yesterday about communication is about wanting to listen, or maybe it was a video before that, I don't know. But communication is also about wanting to listen to what that person has to say. You love and you respect them enough that you want to hear what they have to say. And that sometimes has to come from one person before it comes from the other person to kind of model what that looks like. Not both people are going to get that at the same time, you know? But I don't want to ever, like, think that, I mean, my husband and I still make snarky comments to each other, you know, we're shady. I mean, listen, two gay men in a relationship, we're going to shade each other from time to time, you know? And, oh, you think that's a good choice in a shirt that you're, you know, things like that. And then we'll laugh, whatever, you know. 6-10 years ago, I would have been like, you don't like this shirt? Why don't you like this shirt? Why don't you ever tell me anything? Then you make me look stupid. You don't care. I mean, it just, you know, and I'm kind of exaggerating on that. It never went to that level, but we used to have these outrageous arguments, you know, that would carry over into 3 and 4 days to where we're in our head. You know, a lot of people ask us, like, you know, what got you to the point where you were thinking about getting divorced? Unresolved issues that we never talked about how we felt, that really started from very minimal things that we let grow out of proportion. You know, I think it is completely normal for couples to argue, have disagreements, even raise their voices from time to time. I think that's normal. I actually think that's healthy, if you want to know the truth. And I wanted to make this video today not only for that one person out there that said that, but for the other people that were like, oh my God, like, you know, are we headed to divorce? No. That's normal. I think that's all a part of having a normal relationship. Hell, we spend so much time with each other. You know, it's kind of like, I almost said this in a video yesterday. It's like, when I said that I just spent 10 days with my husband, I wanted some time alone, and so did he. You know, it's kind of like when you play with your best friend when you're growing up for day after day after day, and then your parents are like, your moms are like, I think you guys need a day apart. You know, it's kind of like that a little bit. But I think that arguing, not obviously hardcore fighting, but like, you know, disagreements and things like that, even raising your voice from time to time, I think that's totally normal in a relationship. It's when it becomes a pattern and it becomes your everyday conversation or everyday talking that it becomes a problem, where I think that is a point where we need to seek, you know, an outsider's point of view. I think also the one piece of advice that I would give in all of that is, are you having an argument and then the argument is having you, where you don't even really remember how it started? It's blown so much. It's about 10 things at this point. And then what it is, it's about all these pushed down emotions, all these feelings that we have that you don't respect me and I feel this way and you don't acknowledge that. That's so much deeper than you didn't take the trash out and you don't care where we go for dinner. That's real. It's so much more than that, you know? But those are also conversations that it's like, you know, I am somebody that can have that argument and go right into a conversation. Because I grew up in chaos. So I know how to survive in chaos. Alex did not grow up that way. So Alex is somebody that's like, listen, okay, I cannot leave raised voices and go right into a sit-down conversation. You need to give me an hour or two. One of the things that I've had to learn in our relationship and that he's had to learn is he needs to give me a set amount of time to say, okay, in 2 hours we're going to return to this or we'll bring it up in counseling, because I need to know that it's going to be resolved before we go to bed. One thing we do is we do not go to bed angry. At all, period, end of story. That is one of our rules. We do not go to bed at angry. We always kiss each other goodnight. It's very important to us. But I need to know that there's going to be a period where we're going to be able to resolve this, so it's not him holding that over my head like, no, we'll get to it when we get to it. No, I need to know, we're going to talk about this 2 to 3 hours down the road, but you need to give me some time. And I've had to learn to respect that he can't go right into that conversation. He needs to clear his head. He needs to settle down. You know, it's interesting because like, even on vacation, like, you know, we'll have a disagreement, and I'll say to him, because now, like, our little disagreements I see as fights when, you know, 15 years ago, I mean, we're, like, yelling at each other across the room and whatever. I mean, it wasn't healthy at all. And I'll say to him something like, well, I don't want to fight with you. And he'll be like, we weren't fighting. We were having a conversation. But I'm like so scared to even go there because I don't want it to turn into something, you know? I think that disagreeing and arguing is such a part of relationships. I actually think it's a healthy part of relationships. I think it's somewhat our emotions kind of screaming out and needing to be heard. Sometimes we just need to be heard. It's just maybe that's not the healthiest way to be heard. So just because you're fighting with your partner does not mean that your relationship by any means is at risk of falling apart. It may mean that your relationship is healthier than other people because you guys are both like fighting to be heard and needing to be heard. There are just healthier ways to do that. But I don't want anybody to think that, oh, I fight with my partner, therefore we're headed to divorce or we're unhealthy. That is not it at all. I actually think that couples that never argue and never have heated discussions are probably less healthy than couples that do. That's the truth, okay, from couples that I've witnessed. You know, my best friend and her husband, they've been together, I think, 40 plus years at this point. You think they don't ever argue? You think I haven't witnessed them arguing? You know? Yeah, no, of course it doesn't get like super heated. And she'll walk out the door with me and we'll get a fountain pop and she'll be like, I'll be back in an hour and we can sit down and we can talk about this and he'll be okay. You know, I've learned a lot from my friends that have been in longer relationships than me and some that have been in shorter relationships with me that handle things better. It also has to be in not wanting to live in the fight, you know? I also think that two things for me that I think can be true at the same time that are still important is the recovery saying that it's more important for me to be happy than to be right. I think I lived so much of my life, especially in past relationships and even into this one, that I needed to be right. Like I needed to be justified. I needed somebody to say, to validate, yes, you are right in the situation. You were right, blah, blah, blah. I don't need that as much today, but I also don't need to be a doormat. Like, I need my husband, and my husband needs this from me to say, I hear what you're saying. I don't 100% agree with it, but I hear what you're saying. Sometimes me just being heard is enough of validation. They don't have to agree with me. You're not going to agree with everybody in a relationship, right? But those are things we can talk about. Don't let the fight have you. Don't let it get to a point where it becomes a pattern that becomes your love language, that every day you're arguing and you're fighting. That's when it becomes a problem. But is it normal that you're going to argue with your partner from time to time? Absolutely. Is it normal that you argue with anybody, your mom, your best friend, your coworker from time to time? Absolutely. That's a normal part of life, you know? It's not going to always just be, you know, roses and daisies and lollipops and unicorns throughout life, and definitely not in relationship when you share your life with somebody. And I also think that getting through those hard times, when I talk about what a great relationship we have today, it's because we've worked through those difficult times. We know how to speak to each other today. We know not to take it to that place where we can't see a resolve. I think that was where the arguing was so scary, was we were looking at each other, screaming, wanting to be heard, and we could not see or find a way out of it. That was what was scary, you know? But no, normal arguing in a relationship, I think it's totally normal. I think what would be abnormal is to not ever disagree with your partner or never have some kind of argument, you know, or deeper conversation. So I just wanted to normalize that because I don't want anybody to think, oh my God, if I'm having an argument with my partner, then that means we're headed to divorce. Not at all, you know? And I think, you know, other than really dangerous, abusive situations, I think anything in a marriage really can be worked through if you still want to be with that person and you love that person. I really believe that. I have friends of mine in my life that have, they and their partners have gone through horrific things with each other and they've made it to the other side. You know, horrible, horrible things. And they've still made it to the other side. And they're witness and testimony to me that you can make it through anything with your partner in life as long as you continue to see them as your partner, you know? You don't always agree with your partner. You're going to sometimes argue with your partner, but that's okay. That's all part of it. Just don't let it become a pattern. Don't let it become the language that you speak. Look at your partner when you're arguing with them and say, I don't want to argue with you. I don't want to fight with you. Can we sit down and talk about this? Your partner might say to you, I'm not really in the mood for it right now. You might even say that. Okay, well, I do think that we need to, over the next couple days, set down some time where we sit down and talk. You know, maybe we need to have a business meeting. I have friends of mine that, I think I've shared this over here, that they once a week set down like a 2-hour lunch on like a Saturday or a Sunday where they would have like a business meeting where they would talk about all the issues of the trash and who was feeding the kids. And I thought it was genius. And they saved everything for those 2 hours, and that's when they had those discussions. I thought that was brilliant, you know? So whatever works for you is what you have to do. Just don't let the fight take over the relationship, you know? Don't let it shadow the love. And just because you're arguing today, and just because you argued yesterday, and just because you argue tomorrow, doesn't mean you're going to be arguing next week, you know? You can turn it around. It also doesn't mean that you have to let go of your feelings, your emotions, and not have them validated. You have a right to have your feelings validated, you know? So anyway, I just wanted to make that clear that I do think that that's a normal, healthy part of a relationship. I think it shows growth, actually, you know, when we're both like arguing for our part and our sides and what we believe in and whatever. But be open to hearing what your partner has to say. Be open to speaking calmly and not needing to raise your voice over the other person or talk over them. Listen to what they have to say. Take it in. Don't just be thinking about your response. Be willing to listen to what they have to say and being like, is there any truth to this? Can I agree with with this, or maybe I need to say, yes, I hear what you're saying. This is how I feel. Can you be open to hearing what I am to say, and coming to some kind of term on that, And of course, always, I encourage anybody to go see couples counseling if that's something that you find, And I was just talking to a friend of mine today on the phone, and he was telling me some stuff about he and his fiance, and I said to him, if Alex was talking to you right now, what he would say is start before it ever gets bad, start way before, just as a way to have a sounding board, to have somebody teach you how to communicate, it's beyond healthy for a relationship. So anyway, I just wanted to get on here today and share that. So thank you guys for listening to me. I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.